Hi, everyone. Sorry for the delay. Thank you for being here. My name is Allison Ayotte, and I'm a tutoring coordinator in the Office of Learning Services. Um, and for those who know me, this kind of relates to what was just going on up here. I was trying to get the speaker notes visible, didn't realize I wouldn't be able to. So those who know me would know that I much prefer being in person, one-on-one with students, and I don't love the digital environment. But I'm here to talk about how Gemini generative AI has helped me enjoy the digital work more than I used to, and has helped me, you know, uh, get rid of let it take over some of the tedious tasks so I can spend more time on the part of the work that I enjoy. So my former coworker, Stephanie Pritchard, who used to be the Writing Center director, is the one that really kind of inspired me to start using AI. And I really dove into it when I was trying to solve a personal challenge that I was having. So I'm going to share a little bit more about that with you today. Okay. Oops. And how do we go to the next slide? Or do I have to use this here? Okay. 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 All right. So just like our students, we all have our strengths and challenges. And throughout my life, I have had some visual spatial issues that actually were causing trouble for me working in the digital environment now that more and more and more of our time is spent behind a screen. So really what got me into using Gemini like as my pal, my work partner, was to try and figure out what I could do about some of the challenges that I was having. Okay. So before this presentation, really, I actually made this presentation last week when I was away at a conference with the help of Gemini. But I completely avoided making PowerPoints or slides before. If I was teaching a lesson, I would basically like put everything in order that I wanted in a document, put links in there, click on the links, put images in there, because creating slides took way too much cognitive demand. Like I was exhausted and overwhelmed just trying to even like think about how do I get this to work. So now that I can use a tool to to figure out the layout and put things in a place where it makes sense, I can go back to focusing on the ideas that I want to share, the strategies that I want to share. So I can handle, everything else, the interesting stuff, while the AI takes care of making the slides for me. One of the things that I'll be using it to do next is updating materials that I already have to meet digital accessibility requirements. And I've actually done this on my own too. Like probably people update their resume every once in a while. I used to use I've just been updating the same resume template that I was using like years ago. And of course, it wasn't in a digitally accessible format. So one of the things I was using Gemini to do is ask it questions of, how do I make my resume accessible if it's going to be read by a screen reader, but still look nice and that sort of thing. So it has all these good you can get recommendations on font combinations to use where it would still look good if somebody prints it out, but it's also accessible on the screen. Okay. All right. So last week, while I was at the conference, I had a little bit of time here and there to put this slide together, or this presentation together, which worked out really well because Gemini only has so much time that it can be in thinking mode, and after a while, it needs a break. So I found chunks of time here and there to focus on just this presentation, so I could make some meaningful progress in a little bit of time. Okay. And how I'm using it in my work right now is to make updates to the EOP summer program. So for those that are online that work in EOP, they know that the requirements for the program get updated every year by New York State. And we don't have a lot of time between finding out the requirements and then running the program. So there were some significant changes made to the content requirements this year that kind of fell within my area to make some changes. The state wants the students to learn more about the key politicians and pioneers of the EOP program. So I used Gemini to help me speed up the process of creating some new activities and finding some new resources to meet the new requirements. So designing learning activities, jigsaw activities. A jigsaw is where students kind of become an expert on a concept, and then they teach the rest of the class their expert area, and everybody becomes an expert on something and then teaches the other students. When you're doing work like that, it is really important to have defined roles for your groups of students, so they, one, know what to do, know what the expectations are, and everyone is accountable for doing their part. So my next task with the summer program update is using Gemini to come up with some group roles like recorder, presenter, note taker, that sort of thing. So that's one thing I'll be doing with it next. And also, I'm going to be creating a rubric for some of the activities in the summer program. So where in the past, what I would do to find a rubric is I would look at a whole bunch of examples online, and it's kind of, it's overwhelming the number of hits you get when you type something in. But now I can just kind of tell Gemini what I'm looking for in a rubric, and it will, based on what I ask it for, it will give me a draft, and then I can use the draft as a starting point to make tweaks. I've never had something come up where like the first iteration was what I used, but by changing my process to use AI for some of the initial search, I can get to the refinement faster and spend much more time refining and making improvements and making the best product I can versus spending most of my time formatting and searching. And if you would like to hear more about how to use it in that manner, our colleague David Runge is presenting this afternoon at 2:30. He will be talking about spending more time doing and creating and less time scrolling and searching. All right, so my strategy for how I interact with Gemini, I use it for brain dumps of all the details, and chatting with it back and forth to make improvements and refine drafts. In my description of the workshop, I was talking about how If you're a person that focuses on details like me, I'm like a bottom-up thinker. Sometimes it's very hard for me to see the big picture. But I can put all of the details into the AI and it kind of reflects back to me the themes and the big picture. And that's actually how I was using it for like the personal challenges I was having. Whatever like tasks that I noticed were difficult for me or symptoms that I had, I was plugging them all into Gemini. And the more detail I put in there, the more I could narrow down what might possibly be going on. And then focus on what strategies might help me with that. So putting in all the details, that's the brain dump. You don't have to, have it polished, just get everything out. And then I have a back and forth conversation with it to problem solve. So if I said something that might have been confusing and I can tell that it's not, it didn't quite make sense, or that's not exactly what I meant, I will talk to it and tell it, no, that's not quite right. This is what's happening. So the more information I give it, the more refined we get. And just like us, you do need to give time for the thoughts to marinate, and the thinking mode in Gemini only lasts for so long before you need to give it a rest. So make sure that you're allowing time for processing, and you might have some great ideas that come to you later that you want to add. So just make sure, even though this speeds up the process of getting something done, definitely don't leave it to the last minute like we tell our students. Okay. So both with professional work and personal things that I was working on, I've used AI for collaborative problem solving. Just like a good colleague, you can use this tool to engage in a thinking partnership. And another thing that I've kind of learned from doing this, as I said, I see that a lot of the details sometimes don't see the big picture. The AI does pick up on the big picture, and so sometimes it will mirror things back to you that you didn't even realize about yourself that were, oh, like this is, something, this is a pattern that's appearing in how you work. That's really valuable and useful. So I have found it helpful in that manner also. Okay. All right. In addition to saving time for revisions, remember that the AI can also make mistakes. So make sure that you're checking everything. All right. And another way that it's been helpful to me, and we can use it with our students, as a thinking partner, it can also be a model for reflective learning processes, metacognitive reflection. Okay. So when I'm chatting back and forth with the AI, I'm not just, I don't immediately get the final version of what I'm going to use. It's a reflective process back and forth when I am trying to explain what I need and what I mean to the AI. It forces me to be clear and specific and clarify. So has anybody ever heard of the rubber ducking effect? Okay. So it was originally a way for software engineers to debug their code. So they would put their rubber duck on the desk if they had a problem in the code, and just explain to the rubber duck each line of the code. And of course, the duck couldn't talk back, but by forcing themselves to do that explaining process, it was a way for them to help figure out, okay, what are the errors? What do I need change here. So you could also use AI in that manner to help you, find patterns as you're explaining to it. Getting really clear. So it can help you get to exactly what you're trying to say. Okay. So we can use AI, as other sessions have probably mentioned. AI is here and has certainly changed the way that things happen in the classroom. So we can work with it to use it as a partner for learning and model that for our students. Okay. So for me, it's helped me really synthesize a lot of things to see the pattern in my ideas. So, if a student was using it that way, it's helping them synthesize, and not, there's ways to use it where we can use it as a tool, but not violate academic integrity. Okay. All right. So I know that there's definitely offices on campus that normally would be supported by an administrative assistant, and that position might not be filled. So one of the things that I'm doing is offloading some of the logistical things to Gemini that maybe in the past somebody might have been able to have an administrative assistant do, like doing all the figuring out of the budget for conference travel. The conference I went to last week, AI was a key tool in helping me figure out all the logistics of the train travel, all the Ubers back and forth with the potential surge in gas prices, factoring all that in. And Friday morning, it even told me that there was a train fire in Penn Station, so you might want to double check your plans to get back. And there were some changes, not any huge changes, but like when I went back into the chat I was using to kind of figure out, okay, remind me, what are my steps for, what trains do I need to take today? I didn't ask it like, are there any accidents or anything like that, but it knew that I was going to be using the train, and so it alerted me proactively to that fire. And so then I knew, okay, I need to take some time today and make sure I check the details here. Okay. Okay. So for me, it's really helped me see the big picture of things. Quite often I would need a colleague to help me see the big picture, chatting back and forth. And I still appreciate being able to have those kind of conversations with colleagues, but now I can also use this as a tool to do that. Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Yes.
I just had just a comment in regards to the human pause. And one of the things I really like about Gemini is you start this conversation and then you go back and forth with it, and you're still thinking about things after you end that conversation. And it may be a couple days later, a few days later, that you have some more thoughts about it. And Gemini saves those conversations, so you can just go back into it and just pick up the conversation where you left off, which has been really helpful.
Yes, that's been very helpful to me in a number of instances. So, any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Allison. And our next session is the Novice's Guide to AI, Simplifying Administrative Tasks from a Non-Administrative Point of View, here in 215 with Shirley Retz, starting at 11:30.